During today's pedicure tutorial, we're going to be talking about these white dehydration marks that are on this client's big toe, and she has a little bit on her second toe. We're going to talk about why they come, how to prevent them in the future, and talk to her about home care in between getting her professional pedicures done as well. After the client's foot has been soaking in the warm pedicure bath, the water does soften the dead skin, and even before we've put on any product besides what is in the pedicure soak to help soften the skin, you're going to get a lot of dead skin. So you're going to want to rub that off with the towel, get in between the toes, and then we're going to apply the callus eliminator to the bottom of her feet. We're going to wrap her foot nice and tight and secure so it's comfortable, and sit her foot in a position where you can easily work. I always use acetone when I do my pedicures to remove the polish. Some people might choose to use non-acetone polish remover. However, for me it just takes too long, and I prefer to get the polish off quickly, easily. The nail plate isn't exposed to the chemical for as long when you use pure acetone. Now you can see the little white spots on her big toe. We're going to put some cuticle oil on that in a minute so it can start moisturizing the nail plate. But first I'm applying the cuticle remover to help dissolve any dead skin that is around the nail plate and adhered to the nail plate. I've recently had some questions about what is the difference between the cuticle area and the eponychium area, and I just wanted to talk for a second while I'm trimming the toenails. The cuticle area is the skin that surrounds the nail. The cuticle is the dead part. So when I put cuticle remover on that area, anything that's dead is going to turn white, and it's going to come off very easily. You never want to trim skin that is alive. This is some cuticle oil. I'm just dripping a couple of drops. I'm not touching it to the nail plate because you never know if somebody does have any kind of microbe or, by looking at it, my best guess is that it's not a fungal infection, it's just dehydration, but I'm not going to take the chance and actually touch my cuticle applicator to it. And even though I'm touching her feet with my hands, I'm going to wash and sterilize my hands when I'm finished with her pedicure service, so there's no risk for me to contract anything either. I always like to use my cuticle nippers. If you haven't seen my video on nail clippers, you should watch that. I hate nail clippers. Nail clippers bend and cause the nail plate to peel and break and split and crack. So after we shorten the nails, then we're going to use a file to get off any of the roughness. And I always try to shape the nail with the nippers so I have very little filing to do. Now that cuticle oil is starting to penetrate into the nail and moisturize all of those dehydration spots, and we are going to buff the nail plate to help remove any of the bird up layers of the nail. You want to be careful not to remove too much nail because that could cause a problem as well. And you see how I'm kind of pushing up her toe? You want to make sure that the client's toe is accessible for you. Never put your body in a position that's so uncomfortable because you can't see the toe or get to the area. You need to use your fingers and your hands to manipulate the toes to get them in a position where you can work easily. So another layer of cuticle remover. I've got my little cuticle pusher knife tool, and you can see I'm just pushing back the skin, and you can see that skin accumulating on the top of the cuticle pusher. That's all dead skin. That stuff that's adhered to the nail plate, it's called pterygium. It is the excess part of the cuticle that adheres to the nail plate as the nail grows up out of the matrix area. You need to remove that so your polish will adhere to the nail. Before we get to the next section, I just want to throw this photo in here. I want you to see how far up the toenail polish has grown on her second toe, because I'm going to explain to you how far up the pterygium has grown on her toe. Do you see that little white line right there where the arrow is pointing to? That is actually adhered pterygium to her nail plate, and you need to remove that or her nail polish won't stick to her nail. We're going to remove that. I'm not pressing hard, but I am going to go a little bit slower than I would normally do, just so you guys can see it moving from the nail plate backwards. Sometimes people have more of an excess of that than other people do. And I'm just using the tip just to scrape across to remove some of that. And see, this toenail doesn't have as much of it. And I'm just moving a little faster. I do think that at the end, if I can remember, because I filmed this like a week ago, that she does have some excess skin there that I'm going to show you how to remove properly with the nippers too. So stay tuned for that. Next, I'm going to use the buffer block, and when you buff someone's nails, your only goal is to remove anything that's like burred up off the nail plate. You don't want to file down into the layers of the nail unless it's really necessary, like unless they have like a big groove or a gouge. And I always buff before I use the nippers, because when you buff, a lot of that excess skin comes off. If you nip first, you spend a lot of time thinking something's attached and you're trying to remove it and it's not even really attached. Always move in small little motions back and forth, up and down, or little tiny circles, because you don't want to hit the sides of their nail wall. You don't want to cut them with the buffer block. And I always take a nail file and I file the edges of that buffer block to make sure I don't have any sharp edges as well. This little area has been hitting the top of one of her shoes and caused like a little callus, so we're just going to file that off with our nail file. And then nip off that layer that's kind of hanging there. We're going to repeat all of the same steps on the left foot that we did on the right foot. Going in between your toes, removing the polish, apply the cuticle remover, shorten the nail, file the nail, etc. And I skipped the filing the feet just because I was trying to keep my camera so close that you guys could see it that you really could not see the foot filing section that well, so I just deleted that. But you can look at other pedicure videos where you can see that really well. big toenail has had some kind of trauma to it, and it has created this line that's going all the way across her nail. You can see it's a tiny bit darker. Now when I start to buff it, I notice that it's indented, that the surface in the center is buffing down a little bit, but there's actually a ridge, and then I feel it with my finger, and I decide I'm going to blend that in with my nail file. So this is a 180 grit nail file, and I'm just very lightly smoothing it across the nail to try to blend in where that lump is. So she either stubbed her toe, she did something to it, and it interrupted the growth of her nail plate and caused it to grow a little bit wonky. But this should grow up and it should disappear, and she shouldn't have any more problems. And maybe that's why she has those white spots. Maybe that's where it got interrupted. But you see, I'm trying to buff out that unevenness. And you can see the darker discoloration is still there. That's because it's down in that divot. Time to clean up the nail plate and get ready for the polish. We're going to clean it off really, really well. And sometimes when I use the cotton and acetone, I'll actually use the cotton to press back the cuticle area even more, so I can see if there's any little bits of skin that I didn't get that need to be removed. So you're always trying to pay attention, making mental notes of what you need to go back and correct before you apply the polish. You see I'm pressing back the skin there and on the pinky, because I noticed that there is some skin there that I need to get, and I'll get those with my nippers here in a minute. I'm going to put this in slow motion for you. So remember that anything that is white is dead tissue. Don't ever cut anything that is pink. But we've already pushed back that excess skin, and remember there was a lot. So I'm going to go ahead and push it back again because I can still see some hanging out there around that cuticle line. And then when I go to use my nippers, I want you to pay really close attention. I'm going to sit the nipper blades down, and then I'm going to open them, and I'm going to use the back blade to push the back skin away so I can isolate the dead skin in between the nipper blades. So I squeeze them together. Now I nipped off a tiny bit. Oh, my hand's in front of the light. Turn it. Okay, see, I squeeze them, but then I push them open because I'm pushing that skin out of my way. You only want that dead white skin in between the nipper blades. So if you shut your nippers and then you open them a tiny bit, it'll push that back live skin out of the way. So only the dead skin will go in between your nipper blades. Gonna have to add another light to the side view so I don't get shadow when I do that. Darn it. Here's another slow motion view of how you sit the nippers down close to the cuticle. You sit them down closed, and then you open them a tiny bit to push away the back skin so you can get the dead skin in between the nipper blades. You always want to be very careful to only get the dead skin in between there. Okay, it's time to polish. I'm just cleaning the nail plate off one last time. I'm going to put on her flip-flops, her toe separators, 2 coats of base coat, 2 coats of polish, coat of top coat, and some cuticle oil. And before we get to the end of the video, I just want to thank you guys for watching. And if you enjoy my videos and are learning something, please remember to share them on your social media sites. There is a share button right on the YouTube channel that's next to the title and where that little picture and the name of the channel is. Just click share and a whole bunch of little icons pop up where you can post it to Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, all kinds of stuff. And if you haven't subscribed, click that little subscribe I Love Nails button down the lower right hand corner so you can be notified every single time I post a new video. Thanks again for watching, and everybody have a great day.